Since my previous video was about world building, let's have something related to that one. What if you do not want to create your own setting and do not want to adapt a setting from other system? If that's the case, then GURPS has a surprising variety of pre-made settings. The number of them in the 4th edition is quite high, and if you include the 3rd edition books, then the number becomes even higher. I will not cover all the settings in this video, but only some of my favorites. The most iconic GURPS setting is called Infinite Worlds. In its shortened form, it is included in the back of the basic set, but it is described in much more detail in its own book, GURPS Infinite Worlds, and 5 of its smaller companion volumes. What is it about? After the invention of the so-called parachronic travel that allowed traveling between different alternate timelines, an organization was established called Infinity Unlimited. The goal of this organization was simple: to explore and exploit other alternate timelines. The timelines themselves range from worlds that are very similar to ours, to irradiated wastelands, to fantasy worlds, to worlds where the Roman Empire didn't fall, and more. However, Infinity Unlimited is not alone in this tangled web of timelines. On an alternate Earth where Australian communists became the dominant force, parachronic travel was also invented. Centrum Interworld Service, that's what the counterpart of Infinity Unlimited was called. They seek to develop other worlds and to spread their political beliefs and values across timelines. Aside from Centrum, there is also an occult Yahtzee organization from an alternate timeline where Hitler won the World War II, an interworld cabal of wizards, the United Nations Interworld Council, and some other minor parachronic players. What I like about the setting is that it's unapologetically GURPS, and I believe that it was made this way by design. This is exactly the kind of setting where you can have interactions between different tech levels, magic systems, powers, cultures, languages, and other weird stuff. The book itself has advice for adjusting the setting to the desired tone. If you want campy adventures, you can have them. If you want a more serious exploration of moral problems of exploiting alternate timelines, you can have that too. This is the only official GURPS setting that I have played and ran games in, and it was a blast. I wish there was a TV series about Infinity Unlimited, something like Torchwood or the Ministry of Time, as it lends itself well to episodic action. The book is not only very fun to read, but also has a lot of generic advice for games that involve alternate timelines, time travel, and similar concepts. Though I do not really consider Infinite Worlds a setting, in the same manner as I do not view Planescape or Spelljammer as separate settings, I highly recommend giving it a shot, you won't regret it. Another setting that I really love is Gerbs Horror: The Madness Dossier. The gist of it is the following. Once upon a time the Anunnaki were ruling the world, and the humans were their slaves. The Anunnaki came to understand the intricacies of the human mind and shape their language in a way that even centuries later the humans respond to the Anunnaki commands, be they verbal or written. However, the enslavement came to an end during the so-called Ontoclism that split the history in two. Whatever happened before it, the timeline where the Anunnaki ruled, is called History B. The current timeline is History A. The Anunnaki are pissed, they want their slaves back, and the histories merged. The only force that stands in their way, barely keeping them at bay, is Project Sandman, a top-secret organization whose goal is to keep the Anunnaki and the world asleep. They try to learn isolate languages that had no Anunnaki influence, hack their own brains to be able to perceive and resist their enemies, use psionics and psychotronics, reality shards that grant weird powers, and other fun stuff. Basically, this is XCOM, but with Sumerian monsters and cults instead of aliens and much more grim atmosphere. The book itself is written excellently. The author managed to write it in a way that makes you feel that the world is about to collapse, that hope is almost lost. Well, the rules do have a possibility to cause a reality quake that, on a bad roll, actually does merge the histories back together. However, the setting doesn't take itself too seriously, and allows itself to have some fun too. I feel like an XCOM-like video game based on the Madness Dossier setting would have been perfect. Also, one thing that you can do is turn the setting into one of the alternate timelines for GURPS Infinite Worlds. There is a page devoted to that at the end of the book. This will have some huge and dark implications on the Infinite Worlds meta setting. What if you'd like some fantasy? Then you can check out GURPS Brainstorm. While technically it is part of the Infinite Worlds setting, it can easily work independently of that. The setting is named after the brainstorm phenomenon, a storm that sucks in people and objects from alternate timelines, deposits them on Earth with an Y, an alternate Earth, and prevents them from coming back. GURPS Infinite Worlds describes Earth as a quantum sargasso. You can go in easily, but it's almost impossible to get out. I have heard people say that they do not like Brainstorm because it's generic, but I do not really understand how it can be generic. It's anything but generic. I feel that the most distinct feature of Brainstorm that I haven't seen in any other fantasy settings is religion. Instead of your typical fantasy deity pantheon, humans of Earth follow Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and other real-world religions. All these faiths coexist with non-human religions of elves, dwarves, and other races. GURPS Brainstorm discusses in detail how each religion transformed after being transported to another world, how the Christians coped with being cut off from their Pope, how the Muslims found a new holy place instead of Mecca, how the Jews are handling another exile. Not only that, but every religion had to take into account the existence of other races, their faiths, magic, spirits, demons, etc. You get such things as Christian nations accepting the use of most forms of magic as necessary, Jewish wizards and warlocks being persecuted, some dwarves renouncing their own religion and turning to Islam, and the halflings turning to Christianity. I understand that this can be a sensitive topic for some, and not all players are up for exploring these themes, but I find it incredibly fascinating. In its own way, it makes the setting feel more mature and unique. On the other hand, it also makes it easier for some players to get into the game. They don't have to read about the fantasy knight order that is modeled after the Templars. They can use their historical knowledge and make an actual Templar knight. I guess I should give an honorable mention to GURPS Transhuman Space. This is a hard sci-fi setting that started in the 3rd edition, but was updated to the 4th edition. However, I still recommend getting the 3rd edition book if you are into sci-fi. It discusses some science fiction concepts and their implications on the game world in a way that is easy to digest. Thus, I think it's actually a good world-building book, not just a setting book. And I guess that's it. Even though I talked about only 3.5 settings, GURPS has many more, such as Alchemical Baroque, Reign of Steel, Girl Genius, Discworld, you name it. What is your favorite GURPS setting and why? Feel free to tell me in the comments, I would love to read that. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time.